We're live.
Yeah, we are on YouTube as well.
Cool.
RP55 jeans.
Yeah, it's an old shirt I've had for years. People keep telling me they think it says piss jeans.
Now that you say that,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, now that I've said that. A guy at work told me today he thought it said piss jeans. So I said, yes, it is. It's my favorite brand, piss jeans.
jeans only get that really nice, soft feeling when
Yeah.
you piss in them.
On the upside, nobody ever steals them on you because nobody else will want them. So,
That as well.
there's an upside to piss jeans. All right, should I start recording then?
Oh, good
No.
idea.
I have 2 hours and 28 minutes. 26 minutes.
Should be enough.
I fucking hope so.
I'm recording
Okay.
as well. Say something.
Hello, I am saying something.
For some reason this doesn't work. Oh, say something.
I am saying something else.
Yeah, if you plug in the things, and then it seems like it actually works.
I bet it does.
Okay. Shall we start
Yeah.
show?
Okay. Yeah, think I'm ready when you are. I'm recording. I've got my drink. I've got my notes. I've got pretty much everything, I think.
Let's start this then.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
Linux Outlaws is proudly sponsored by Bytemark UK. Check out their Big V platform for all your web hosting needs. Find out more at bytemark.co.uk. Six Gun Productions. New media, new rules.
Fuck, I have to do that again.
No.
I've buggered. I've just buggered my system by pushing the wrong button.
Okay. Start again.
Let me just do this again. Wait. Now I just have to think for a moment. Otherwise, I'm gonna do the same thing. How am I gonna do this? Shit. Okay.
I don't know.
Let's no. I know you don't know. You can't know. You don't know what I'm doing.
No, I don't.
Let me do this again. Okay, sorry for that. Take two, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Linux Outlaws is proudly sponsored by Bytemark UK. Check out their Big V platform for all your web hosting needs. Find out more at bytemark.co.uk. Six Gun Productions. New media, new rules.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Linux Outlaws, episode 358. I'm Fab from Germany.
Hello, everyone. This is Dan coming to you from Liverpool in the UK. This is, what are we on now? 358, is it?
358.
Episode 358. I can't think of any special thing to say about that number, so maybe we'll wait for wait for an next one. Yeah.
360 is going to be a good one.
Oh yeah, 360. That's like right back to the start. We should just release the episode 1 again. We're doing a loop. We're right back to the start, and then we just play through all the episodes again, like one of those old '80s computer games when you get to the end and then really disappointed to find out that there wasn't an end, and you just went back to the start again. Did the whole thing again.
Yeah.
It's like We've been trolling people for 7 years.
That won't annoy people at all.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. It won't annoy people at all. Yeah, it is. It's a Monday evening. It's the 18th of August as we're recording this, and yeah, and it's well, I was going to say it's quite a nice evening. It's not really actually here. It's been a bit shitty today.
Oh God, it's been absolutely stormy over here. It's been like really shit weather.
Yeah, we had plenty of rain before. I could hear people screaming as like it suddenly opened up before, and I could hear people outside the office where I work, like screaming. Well, shouting and running. Yeah, because it suddenly became like, out of nowhere, it was suddenly like a monsoon and there's people shouting and.
Come on, that's the UK. People should be used to that.
I don't know. We don't get tropical rain quite the same. We usually get slow, annoying rain that just goes on for ages. Yeah. It's quite rare that we'll suddenly get from nothing to like sudden massive downpour. But yeah, it's that's British summer for you. I did go to a barbecue the other day, which was a proper British barbecue. We had yeah, it didn't actually rain too much, but we had grey skies, wind, ridiculous wind. You had to hold on to food or it'd blow away, and things like that. So it was a proper British barbecue experience for all you Australians listening who can laugh while you stand on a beach somewhere, roasting stuff on the barbie.
Well, that sounds great. Sounds fun.
Yeah. Well, it's a British tradition.
Yeah. Let me try something. I've prepared something. I can podcast on the motorbike now. Let's try this. Let's start up the bike. Yeah, that sounds good.
Nice.
Yeah, I can podcast from the bike now. Pretty cool.
Yeah, well, the engine noise is a bit loud. It's going to be.
I can turn it down a bit.
I can turn it down. Yeah, okay. It's handy, that, isn't it? That you can do that on a bike.
No, it's really cool. I can actually loop this.
Oh, right, okay.
I can do the whole show on the bike. I can also vibrate on the video bit. I should put my helmet on.
Yeah, I can just imagine the amount of complaints we get from people if you do that for the whole show.
Yeah, that's not annoying at all, isn't it?
Yeah, that's probably gonna go a bit crazy. Yeah, so we got all kinds of stuff to talk about as well.
I'll turn the bike off, otherwise I can't concentrate at all. Then
yeah, it's kind of difficult to hear. Yeah, that's better. Oh, and it's nearly started up again then.
It has. Apparently it's not looping perfectly either. I don't know why that is, but yeah.
Fantagod says it sounds more like a diesel.
No,
it's not. Is it diesel? No, it's petrol, isn't it?
It's a V2 petrol engine.
V2? What? Like we can get our first Nazi reference in already. It's a V2.
Yeah, people are complaining that we don't have enough.
Nazi references. We've managed one straight off the bat. Yeah.
No, it's a two.
Is it rocket powered? Yeah. Does it have a big afterburner on it and
it's
stuff?
Got 2 cylinders.
Right.
It's actually quite an interesting engine if you look at the bike. It's like in a 90-degree angle.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a Boxer. The Boxer motorbikes where it sticks out like horizontally.
Mm-hmm.
It's 90 degrees. It's weird. Anyway, let's get on the show. Let's talk about stuff that's not Linux related.
Yeah, we got some email later. We're going to talk about the fact that we do off-topic stuff, but I mean, this is fairly big. I mean, we talk a lot about political news and other things as well, and this has been big news in the last week to 10 days. Yeah, the kind of ongoing situation in Ferguson, Missouri right now, which is I believe it's like a suburb of St. Louis or St. Louis. I don't know how people want to say that. Well, I've heard it called St. Louis as well, or St. Louis, whatever you want to call it, in Missouri. Yeah, there's been a lot of civil unrest going on there due to.
I think it's basically a city. It's like technically a suburb, but I think it's a small. It's like its own town.
Mm-hmm.
It's got like a massive black population. It's like I don't know, 80% or something.
Yeah, and this has been going on for 10 days roughly now. I'm going to say it's the 18th or so now. Yeah, there was lots of tension there. There's a young man called Michael. I think it was Michael Brown. I keep forgetting his surname. Yeah, Michael Brown. I'm just checking it up. He was an 18-year-old student, and he was he was shot dead by a police officer I think it was on the 9th or something like that August 8th or 9th. Yeah, there you go. Saturday, 9th of August. He says, looking it up. He was unarmed, and the conflicting reports about what was going on. But obviously, it caused a big outrage. There's been quite a few of these kind of incidents recently. There was a guy, Eric Garner, in New York. Again, another unarmed black man was also shot mysteriously. And
this guy who was there was a guy, wasn't that in New York as well, who was they arrested him, and the police officer basically strangled him to death.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there was a guy who was.
Yes.
I remember seeing that. Yeah,
like a big bloke. I mean, there was a video.
There was video. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, there was video of it.
There was no reason like for him to even hold him in a chokehold because that guy was big. I mean, he looked like he couldn't get up himself anyway.
Yeah, I do. I do remember seeing there was footage of that as well. But there's been ongoing kind of unrest there.
This has been going on in the US for a long time. I mean, there's a song I posted on my blog about this, 41 Shots by Bruce Springsteen, which is from what, 99 or something, 2000.
Longer than that. I think if you look back at the civil rights movement, it's been going on a lot longer than that.
Like specifically, the song is about Mandu Diallo. It was shot in 99 by a police officer, well, several police officers, I think 4 of them. And the song's called 41 Shots because they killed him with 41 shots.
Yeah.
And the kid was unarmed. So specifically this racial profiling, like stopping 8 times more black people than white. In the police, you know, when they stop people on the street, and then they're unarmed, but they like try to raise their arms, and then they're shot.
Yeah.
And the police says like, they were going for the gun.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very. I should be careful. I was going to say it's a very common occurrence. It's not a very common occurrence that people get shot, but it seems to be very common in, not just in the US, I should point out, in other countries as well. Certainly over here, we don't get a lot of shootings and stuff, but we have the stop and search laws that they brought in a little while ago, which mean the police can stop and search anyone they think might be doing something illegal or they just don't like the look of, basically. And under the stop and search laws, there's been vastly more kind of black African kind of UK residents. Hello, the bike's starting again. Who've been stopped because apparently that's what police think is. Yeah. So there's definite profiling going on there because there's been like a massively disproportionate amount of like ethnic minorities who've been stopped and searched for no reason, essentially. Anyway, so there's been escalating kind of troubles over there. The police have come in. And basically, it's hard to tell. It's something that I know you talked about in your blog, but it's kind of hard to tell the difference between the army and the police these days. The police are they're not even wearing blue, uniforms. They're wearing like camo gear. They've got assault rifles. They're in tanks.
Just before you go on, just for comparison, I'm just looking up the stats. German police in 2012 has killed 8 people. And has fired 36 shots.
Right, in the whole
on people. In Germany, every shot that is fired by the police
is cataloged,
is accounted for. So in 2011, they also fired 36 shots, killed 6. In 2010, they killed 8, fired 47 shots. So that's the in Germany, since I guess they started cataloging this in 1952, police shot 476 people and fired 2,000.
Since the whole time, no?
Since 52.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say, because in 1 year, that's a lot. If you're telling me, like, in that year of 1952.
That's in 50 years. In 60 years. Killed 456 people, fired 2,364 shots at people.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff going. I mean, I was just reading through all of the kind of the stuff about the changes of policing and so on, and there's been a back and forth basically. This has been going on since, as we said, the 9th of. That's 9 days ago as we're recording now. So it's a long time, and there immediately people came to the scene of the shooting and started protesting. One of the big contentious kind of issues is that the body of Michael Brown was left in the street for like hours, basically, before it was taken away. And the police chief, who's I can't remember his name now. What is it now? It's something Jackson, is it? Blah blah blah. Anyway, I'll look it up anyway. But I think it was. Yeah, I nearly said Police Chief Michael Jackson, but his name's not Michael Jackson. The police chief basically said he was unhappy with the amount of time the body had been there, but it didn't help. It didn't help that it looked like the police were just going to fuck it, just leave him there. But the problem was that they claimed that because of the crowds that were surrounding the scene, they couldn't get in to do their proper crime scene stuff in time in a quick fashion as they normally would. I don't know, but there's lots of different reasons. But I mean, it's kind of getting. It seems to be getting worse. I mean, it calms down a bit.
It's getting worse. They're in the streets with fucking tanks. Well, not tanks, but I've learned since then what an MRAP is. A mine-resistant assault-protected vehicle.
I think you said mind-resistant.
No, mine-resistant.
Mine, yeah, that makes more sense. Mind-resistant wouldn't make a lot of sense.
No sense for the police at all. They're used by the military in Iraq, for example. Where they're actually attacked by bombs and mines, and apparently the military didn't use them anymore, so they sold them to the police.
Haven't they got Predator drones as well? When are they getting those?
I don't know. It's ridiculous. I mean, there's police on the streets in camo. There's a great.
Well, that's what I was saying about when you look at the photos, you can't tell whether they're police or not.
I put a link in the show notes. There's a great video from John Oliver's show. Where he talks about all of this and goes into detail, basically that they have a racism problem with the police. Even after this happened, there's a police officer caught on camera.
Is that where he shouts like "Bring it on, you animals" or something?
Bring it on, you animals.
Yeah.
There is stuff from a few months ago where a police officer basically says we need to arrest more black people, and he says let's make the cells more colorful. And of course, John Oliver is great. He's like, well, this is only acceptable if you're an interior designer and you're walking around with paint swatches.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, the prison population is already ridiculously skewed anyway in America, and in other countries too, I imagine. But it is already kind of, there are stupidly more amounts of African Americans going to prison than white people who committed the same crimes or have had the same kind of problems.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes. People need to see that John Oliver video.
Yeah, Fantagor says in the IRC he could be right on this, but they're going to bring in Ed 209 next. That's it seems to be the way they're going, like bloody armored, robots and shit.
Today, they announced that they're bringing in the National Guard.
Yeah, I saw that. National Guard's coming in tonight, I believe, or today. Great. Which is only going to make things worse.
That's going to de-escalate things.
Interestingly, on Thursday the 14th, a few days ago, they turned over. Somebody finally had a good idea to remove all the armored, cars and all the kind of slightly overzealous armed police, and allow the state patrol to basically police the scene. And then things actually calmed down, and things were doing a lot better. And what's his name? Is it something Johnson? Ron
the guy,
Johnson, the guy who's the head of the. He marched with protesters. Head of the
Highway Patrol.
Highway Patrol, yes, sorry. He marched with protesters, actually.
Yeah, but he made himself really unpopular today. Last night, because in a press conference they had now actually presented the autopsy results, and then the son that the guy was like the teenager was shot with 6 shots and 2 in the head, and he was basically that Chief Johnson was basically saying, yeah, well, that officer did everything right and shit. And also they held a press conference and then demanded, there were reporters on the scene from Vice News. They demanded that they turn their cameras off.
At a press conference?
Yes, they were not allowed to film this. Apparently there's shit going on, there was a thing where they said, well, the press, the white press can now
The white press.
Yeah, they were basically
Wow.
letting white members of the press forward to like film stuff, but like there were apparently black members of the press who weren't allowed to. This is ridiculous. Like there's an interview of the police chief dude, where it's like, I don't know, CNN or something, and the guy asked him like how many black or how many basically non-white police officers do you have? And he's like, well, there's 4. There's
Dave.
No, yeah, no, he literally says
like,
there's 4, and there used to be 6, and one guy quit, and I don't know where the other guy is, and then we have Hispanic, and like two Pacific Islanders.
Pacific Islanders, wow. Okay.
Yeah, what the fuck? And then Oliver goes like, well, last night, despite both of the Pacific Islanders being present, the situation escalated again.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to go back and forth over time. And you mentioned the incident in '99. It reminds me of looking at the scenes of unrest and stuff of the Rodney King the LA riots, which happened after the Rodney King incident in 1992. Now, he wasn't killed. He was very, very badly beaten up by 4 police officers who were actually acquitted. And once they were acquitted, basically LA just got tore the fuck down, basically. I mean, I was looking at this earlier. I was looking at this 92. It happened. I would have been about 11 or 12 when this happened, but I still remember it being a big thing. Yeah, there were 2,000 plus injuries during the 6 days of rioting, and 53 deaths in LA in '92. And yeah, I just hope to God that this doesn't get to that kind of stage. Because now they've brought a lot of that involved the National Guard as well, and now they're bringing in the National Guard. Who knows?
Just compare that to the 37 who died in all of Germany in 2012 again, and that includes like bank robbers they had to shoot because they were taking hostages. Yeah,
it's gonna keep it's gonna keep.
Basically,
developing, I suppose.
In Germany, the police, if there's a standoff at a bank or something, and they want to shoot at the perps, they have to ring not the head of police, but the civilian politician who's in charge of the police, whatever of the city, I don't know what they're called in the UK,
like the mayor.
Nah, no. Well, it's not the mayor. It's like the employee of the mayor. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, he's not a police officer. He's a politician. They basically have to ring him and then explain the situation and ask for permission every time. Yeah, it's this is bad. I mean, people were talking to me on actually Google Plus today, and they were like, "Why do you care about this? This is a local US thing," and that's just very short-sighted. I mean,
well, it's in the international news. It's been all over the international news. It's
no matter where you are, you can be sure that your local politicians are watching this. And if this turns out that you can just like mow under people like this with fucking tanks, and then this I mean, everybody's looking at the US as kind of some kind of role model, which is ridiculous because all these unrest with the police basically behaving like this. If this was like Egypt, like the stuff Obama said when stuff like this was going on in Egypt, and now he's saying nothing because it's in the US, is just really bad. And the other thing I pointed out, just to get a Hitler reference in again, because
go on.
We need to do that.
People who are playing a drinking game.
This is like saying, you're in the 30s, like let's say you're 1936, and you're watching Hitler taking over Germany. And you're saying, well, what do we care about what Hitler does to his own people, right?
Well, there were people who said that. There were people.
I know, and we shouldn't do that these days because we know that was a bad idea. It's not good for anybody if they turn the U.S. into a police state.
No. Well, they've declared a state of emergency, and it's looking pretty crazy. There's been. I'm trying to think. There's been certainly in this country, in the UK, we've had a history of race riots. So not very far from where I'm sitting talking to you right now, there was the Toxteth riots in Liverpool, which were race related in the early 80s, kind of 82, 83, around there. And there's been others, Brixton riots and all these kind of things. But I mean, apart from what really wasn't a riot a couple of years ago, which people tried to call a riot, when they had all right, there was some fires and stuff.
Stuff in London.
Yeah, in Tottenham and around there. I'm okay. I know there were fires set and there was damage and stuff, but it wasn't anything compared to the serious kind of rioting that we've seen. I don't know. It's a worrying thing, and I think you're right that the police are kind of, and I think, without wanting to sound too much like a politician, I know they have a hard job, and there are times when, as you say, somebody's firing. There are armed criminals, and they need to be able to deal with that. But I think I think everyone would agree there's a huge difference between, firing at somebody who's firing back at you, or even who you think is going to fire at you, who's armed or whatever, who's a violent criminal, and firing at somebody who's holding a sign up that says, peace or something like that. That's kind of different.
If there's a crowd and you have a standoff with the police and there's a protesting crowd and you know that some of them are non-violent protesters and there's a guy shooting from the crowd at the police, the thing the police is supposed to do is retreat. They can retreat, they can regroup, they got helicopters, they can follow the guy, and then you just, arrest him afterwards. You can't just shoot back at a crowd. You're going to hit somebody who's innocent, I know that's not fair. That's not fair for the police, but that's their job. It's not an easy job, and I probably couldn't do it, but, and I'm usually not somebody who's against the police, but, I mean, if you have vehicles with snipers on them aiming. I mean, there's another thing in the John Oliver thing which is great, with basically there's a guy from the military who says that these people aren't trained. You can see that the police are not trained to use like assault rifles and shit, because he says in the military, if you look at soldiers, U.S. soldiers anywhere, like in they're in bloody Fallujah or whatever, in Iraq, they never aim their rifles at people, because the military teaches you you're only supposed to aim your rifle at somebody if you're getting ready to actually shoot them. Otherwise, you always need to point it at the ground. And you see like footage of these police officers with like assault rifles, and they're just like constantly lazily aiming at the protesters.
Yeah, and trying to intimidate them, basically. Yeah. I mean, some of the stuff with the use of like tear gas and so on, and it's just crazy. I mean, there was the reports of an 8-year-old boy being hit with tear gas recently in the city, and there was which is really bizarre, a family who lived nearby one of the main roads, in their own backyard, just like stood watching. And police decided to, they got hit with a tear gas canister because they were stood there watching and apparently not going away, or I don't know, maybe they shouted something, who knows.
Yeah, and we had that in Germany. Remember when we talked about those when they were protesting Stuttgart 21, and they like shot these people, like they shot people out of the trees, like school children.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Them, and I was really critical of that. It's just not appropriate, and they're kind of getting away with that in Germany as well. And I think that is as deplorable. We need to kind of call attention to this. This is also why I want to talk about this on the show, because this is something that concerns all of us.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not like we can say, "Oh, we're white. This is not going to happen to us."
It's going to happen, all over the place. And as you say, if it sets a precedent, then. For use of force and so on. And we've had escalation of force in the UK, particularly in things like peaceful protests and people marching in London and so on, which is perfectly legal, and non-violent protests where there are no injuries or anything. And the police will still use all these techniques, like the famous one was the kettling thing, where they try and force them into one, like funnel them into one road, and then force them and like squash them in the road and keep people in one place. And all these weird kind of basically military tactics, as you say. And it just seems a strange response to what's supposed to be a free country. Anyway. Let's hope that situation gets better, but I don't know. It doesn't look like it to me.
Well, the only acceptable things, they need to sack the whole police force in that town. They need to restructure that. That's just just a clusterfuck that's not gonna.
Yeah, it's
It's not
yeah.
gonna work. Let's get off this topic.
Yep.
With the quote.
Oh.
And just remember, this is 10 years old or something. There's a reason you separate the military and the police. One fights the enemies of the state, the other serves and protects the people. When the military becomes both, then the enemies of the state tend to become the people.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was Commander Adama in Battlestar Galactica.
Well, yeah, it's very true. It's very true.
Very
Meanwhile, onto another subject of some kind of underwater unrest, I suppose.
Attacks.
Shark attacks. There's been. I read some of. I know you wrote about this story for CT. I read some of the translation.
Shark alert.
Yeah, apparently this is quite a well-known phenomenon. I didn't realize this, but many of the fiber cables that are running under the sea, connecting the world and so on, are actually kind of like a magnet for sharks. They're attracted to the current or the electrical, the magnetic interference and stuff that comes with them, and they'll try and bite through them. And there's video footage of sharks attacking the cables. So basically, sharks are attacking the internet. That's the thing we need to take.
Yeah, weird, isn't it? I was writing about this. I had a weekend shift for the first time, and this is one of I write about when you're on the weekend shift. You write about anything basically.
Mm-hmm.
Not only I don't write only about security. Then and this was kind of cool. I thought I just have to write about this. Yeah, apparently it's a well-known phenomenon. I mean the what's this? New York Times was writing about this in '87. Apparently, it's become more prevalent because on fiber cables, and people are speculating that's because the the copper cables were better insulated. Because of course it's copper and there's electricity in it, and fiber there's no electricity, so they're not that well insulated. But then the because you don't need to insulate them, but there is a power. There's a conduit in the fiber cable that actually carries power, because at intervals there are like these repeaters who
boost the signal.
Boost the signal. So, but they don't need to be that well insulated because the fiber is glass, so it's not conductive. So the power in the power cable actually doesn't impact that. But apparently, it creates a magnetic field, and sharks have they have this organ that a lot of fish have in the side of their body, which allows them to detect electromagnetic fields. They kind of use this to they can get electric fields from muscles like the heart or the brain of
when they're hunting prey. Yeah.
And people have theorized that this cable to them sounds like an injured fish. So now actually Google apparently is coating their undersea cables with Kevlar.
You know what they need? They need that stuff from if you've ever seen the really cheesy old Batman film with Adam West from like 1968, I think it is, somewhere around there, where he has a can of like bat shark repellent and he just sprays it and the shark goes away. That's what they need. They need to coat their cables in bat shark repellent, and it'll be fine.
I don't think it's a biological phenomenon. I think this is a supervillain attacking us, and
do you think? Yeah.
He has correctly figured out that if the internet's destroyed, we're all going to hell. And he's trying to take down the internet under the sea.
There's no word yet on whether these sharks have got freaking lasers on their heads.
I'm going to say that's the second stage. When that happens, we're fucked.
Right. Maybe. Also, I would imagine that copper cables are kind of tougher than fiber, and they probably stand up to more shark biting than a fiber cable would. I don't know. It's just a speculation.
Yeah, maybe fiber's pretty brittle.
Yeah, well, that's the point, isn't it? If they break the glass, smash the fiber, then you're kind of screwed. Either way, but
in the 80s they discovered this because these undersea cables, they're just on the ocean floor. Because when they repair them, they have ships going on the surface, and the ship just pulls up the cable. and basically goes along the cable, and then lets it back down, of course. But they figured out that they found shark teeth in the cables.
I've just found the clip of from Batman. It's only 30 seconds long. For the shark. Sorry, it's not called bat shark repellent. It's called shark repellent bat spray. If you haven't seen it, it's fantastic. I'm just going to quickly play a bit of the audio. It's Adam West, so he's always good. Here we go. So just for the benefit of the listener, if you haven't seen it, Batman's basically on a rope ladder hanging off a helicopter, and he's got a shark attached to his leg.
Holy sardine!
He's punching it, but it's just like stuck to his leg. It's a big rubber shark.
Hand me down the shark repellent bat spray!
Oh, amazing. Yeah, hand me the shark repellent bat spray.
Repellent bat spray!
Yeah. It's amazing. That film's brilliant, actually. Adam West's always good, but yeah, that film's really good. I've posted the link in the chat room there for people. Yeah, so maybe that's what they need.
Put in the show notes. I'll put in the.
Yeah, I'll copy it over now. Anyway, so meanwhile, moving on, you've been trying out a thing called Cool Old Terminal, which is yeah, that looks quite interesting.
I think I talked about having used Cathode on macOS when I in the UK when I had a Mac at work. You know, that old, it kind of emulates a cathode ray tube old style terminal. And I found last week something called Cool Old Terminal, which is a guy who's built something similar for Linux. And it's still like kind of in beta state. It sometimes crashes, but it's really cool. It's on GitHub. There'll be a link in the story I'm linking. I've also explained on my blog there how to install it or compile it.
I was going to say you have to compile it for Ubuntu, yeah.
Well, right now, there's no packages, but there'll be soon. There's packages for Fedora and OpenSUSE and Arch. It uses the KD terminal console and Qt 5 to do all the effects, and it's awesome. I made a Bash RC thing that when I started up, it comes up with Wayland Yutani, basically, because it looks like a computer from Alien. I've been looking at trailers from Alien Isolation, which comes out in October, which is this game that's kind of in the style of 70s.
That's
Alien.
the survival one, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah, which I'm excited about. And so this came, very handy. There's an animated GIF, so you can see what it looks like in the on the story. And it doesn't only have that style, it has a lot of styles. It has an old DOS type look, it has an Apple II look, it has an Amber kind of thing, and you can also tune it. You can choose the color, you can choose the if it flickers, how much it flickers, if there's like scan lines and all of that. It's really cool.
It looks very cool. I watched the screenshot that you put up. I do like the Wayland Yutani thing. I couldn't help thinking though that it might be. I don't know. First I thought, well, this must be quite intensive. The amount of like graphics, stuff it must use to do this. But then I thought about it and I thought, well, nearly every desktop has some kind of 3D acceleration these days anyway, so maybe it doesn't make much difference.
Well, it does use some processing power definitely, but it's not that bad. I mean, especially if you have like a proper graphics card, like an NVIDIA card or something, it takes all that stuff. I think it's a bit resource intensive right now because he's still working on that. But it's cool. I actually used Cathode as my main terminal, and I'm now using this main terminal as my main terminal at work. Wow. And people think I'm mad, but it's bloody handy when the TV comes around again, because they always come around and film us. And they do interviews, but then they want shots of us sitting on the computer hacking,
right?
Because they cut them with the if you ever seen a video with an expert on TV, it's like they cut while you're talking. They cut to like this.
Yeah, usually these days they always have the reporter stood in front of stuff going on, like they're not there, just going, and now today we're reporting on blah blah blah, as like a tank rolls behind them or something.
And now I'll have that terminal, which looks amazing, which looks exactly like the television audience thinks a hacker's terminal looks. So
yeah, you're right. They do tend to think that.
I'll use that.
Yeah, it looks very cool. I you never know. I may get around to trying it at some point. I do actually kind of. I think like a lot of people do. I always have my my terminal set to green text on a black background, just because that's the way it should be.
Well,
really.
I kind of go back and forth between that and Amber.
All right. Okay.
Because my first screen was an Amber screen,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of do like that color as well.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like the two Fallout colors. The green one's from Fallout 3, and the Amber one is Fallout New Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Which is also something that's what I did for work. I did another Bash RC at work today, which says Robco Industries and Fallout. But also,
start collecting those bottle caps now. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. So if you want to check that out, there'll be a link in the show notes. It's also on Fab's blog at fabsh.com.
Speaking of my blog.
Yeah.
Which runs on Ghost. New Ghost version is out. If you go to my blog, you might see that I changed the theme again, which is because the new Ghost version came out, and it's kind of, well, the theme hasn't caught up yet. Also, I like the new theme. It's very different, but for now, I really like it. It's cool. So, Ghost 05, they say it's their last big release. They have basically said that they've made a mistake in doing like these big bang releases, and now they're just gonna do
I read
that. Which is interesting. Let's see how.
Well, they said they copied the behavior from other projects, and they feel it's wrong.
Yeah.
So it says, after a lot of consideration, we believe we've made a significant error in how we do releases. Until now, we've blindly followed what other open source projects do for releases, 2 to 3 releases a year with fixed milestones and feature sets. Each time a new release comes around, it's a big event and everyone has to upgrade, like now. But it says, if you look at it objectively, this model is good for precisely nobody. Developers have to wait 3 to 6 months to see how users respond to their work, and then iterate for another 3 to 6 months after that. Users have to upgrade. The release cycle is always either too long or too short. Both are understandably frustrating. So it says all of this is pretty archaic way of working for web-based software development in 2014. And so they're basically going to release every 2 to 4 weeks from now on.
I think
smaller releases, like rolling releases almost.
I think they're right. No, it's not going to be rolling because they do testing and stuff. They just do fewer features and release them often. I think they're right. Traditional open source projects, especially Linux distributions, don't do this because they need this.
Different prospect, though. To be fair, making a Linux distribution to making
not really. I'm going to go into the upside and downsides in a second, which are the same for Linux distribution. But they don't do this because they need the PR of the.
Oh yeah.
And I wonder if Ghost can do without that, because that is a handy thing to have for a project. On the other hand, I mean, they describe all the upsides. There is a downside, which is people who are not as involved in the technology and who aren't enthusiasts and who don't keep up to date all the time lose track of all these releases and they forget to update. But or they just don't know what's new, or it's overwhelming for them. They say they want to address the forget to update thing by Ghost has built-in update notifications. It's not automatic like WordPress, but it pops up a notification in the thing that tells you there's a new version, and they're gonna keep do that like every few months, every 3 to 4 months. They're gonna still have that. Which I guess is good, and then presumably it'll take you to a page that lists all the changes since the last major update or whatever. I think that could work.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, they've got the Ghost Pro thing, which is like a hosted account, and they'll just update it for you.
Well, yeah,
if you use that, then you basically just it'll happen on its own.
It definitely works for that. That's like WordPress.com, and it just you get the new features turn up. That's kind of handy. I host my own Ghost blog. I mean, we talked about this. You told me about Webfaction, and this is why I switched to Webfaction. And
yeah, and in case anyone doesn't know, I'm sure they probably do, but we haven't talked about it in a while. So in case anyone doesn't know, Ghost is all Node.js. So it's all JavaScript. It uses Node.js, which is very popular these days. And it's quite, well, it's very kind of lean and slim and stuff. And I think that's the point of it. It'd be interesting to see how that develops. Because I think a lot of these projects, like WordPress started out as being pretty lean, and then it just grew and grew and grew, and now it's quite big.
Yeah,
so it'd be interesting to see how if they can keep it small, or if they want to keep it that small, or how that'll work out. If they let people make plugins for it and stuff, then it'll balloon in size in no time.
Well, yeah, that's I talked about that in my blog post as well. That is the question. Will they get feature creep, and can they work with that? I don't know. I hope they can. I hope it's not gonna turn out like WordPress. I think basically, I mean, the main thing is it's you write in Markdown, and you write Markdown on the left, and you've got preview on the right, and that's kind of their alternative approach to WYSIWYG. And I think that's what defines Ghost, and there's probably a lot of people who don't want that, and they probably shouldn't use Ghost. If they go away from that, and if they have optional WYSIWYG, I think that's the point where it's gonna start falling apart for me.
Yeah, it could expand quite quickly. I think the point is, I mean, much like every other field of software, or I suppose a lot of other things as well, Ghost is perfect for certain jobs and certain users, but other people are probably better off with something like WordPress or something else, and I think it's keeping them different. That's the thing. What tends to happen is they seem to have a different kind of philosophy here, which is interesting. It's not powered by a company who are desperate to get market share quite the same way. And not to say that WordPress is, or other systems like Drupal, other things are quite like that. But what tends to happen is they try and become more like other products, because they go, oh, they're shipping a lot of downloads or whatever. Let's become more like them. So they start to try and steal features off each other. But Ghost seems to really not give a shit what anyone else is doing, which I kind of like.
I like that as well. I mean, one of the big things is just that they're a blog software. The WordPress at some point decided. I mean, Drupal's always been a CMS.
True, yeah.
WordPress at some point decided that they want to be a CMS, which is where it changed.
Yeah.
And I think as long as Ghost keeps saying, we're just a blog software, and we want to do that better, then I think they're on the right track. But we'll see. Let's talk about the features that are actually in the new version.
Yeah.
So this is Ghost 05. It has quite a few features. It now has multiple authors. It already had something in the admin page where you could put in author details. But now it actually surfaces that. So now you have multiple authors. Now you have the author's name on the post and everything. And if you click on that, you get to a page about the author. That has a little blurb about them, and then all the posts they did, which is really well done. And they also introduced a JSON API, which apparently they say Ghost is a self-consuming JSON API. So I guess it's internally also powered by this API.
Okay.
So once they will open up the API, make it available, which is with OAuth, which they're going to do in a following version, then you can build apps and do everything the native app does as well. So I think you can basically you could build a WYSIWYG front end. Basically you could replace the whole admin thing, or do all kinds of other crazy shit, which is going to be interesting. But as long as third parties do that, I'm completely okay with that. As long as the core app's simple, I don't have to use all this other stuff, and it won't be over-engineered, because the basic API will still be the same thing in the backend. That would be cool.
Do you use it much on like tablets or phone or anything? How's the site scale on there?
they improved the mobile stuff. It actually, until 2 versions ago, it was kind of broken.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't really write stuff or save it. Now it's just basically it just scales. It's the same interface.
Mm.
It just like on the tablet, on the phone, you don't have the Markdown preview side by side, that tabs, but it's the same interface, completely the same, and it works well. You can use it
Okay.
as well. Now you can use it on tablet as on a desktop. And it scales really well for reading, of course. Really clean and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Um,
Yeah, I haven't really played with it. I did install it on a WebFaction account just because they had the option to do so, and I played around a bit with Node on there very briefly. But it's something I would like to kind of play around with more, because I think Node.js is really interesting, and I think it's going to keep growing, and it seems to still be the cool thing on the block at the moment right now. I mean, the web changes every 10 seconds, so that'll probably change. But right now it looks really interesting. So if people are interested, you can go to ghost.org.
Yeah. No, don't. We're not done. They also changed their theme. Well, they upgraded their theme. It's now at version 1.0, the default theme, Casper, which is the one I use on my blog right now.
Ghost.
So you can look at that. Yeah. And yeah. There is also a new thing. They have this thing called Privacy MD, which is a text file that basically they say we now ship a text file with plain English description of every feature within the software which might affect user privacy, which they wanna. It's like a README text file, something new.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Kind of cool. New installer OAuth support. They improved mobile stuff, as I said. And they also redesigned the whole back end, but it still looks the admin thing, but it looks the same. It's just did something under
the hood. Yeah.
Under the hood. Yeah. So that's all the features. Pretty cool. People should check it out. It's cool. It's really
very cool. Yeah, go and check it out. Ghost.org is the website. And you can try it out on there. It runs on Node.js, as we mentioned, so you'll need a host that can handle that.
It's kind of npm, I think. The Node package manager kind of uses that to provision itself and stuff.
Yeah, I found it worked fairly. I mean, it's probably got better now. I mean, I used it when it very, very first came out, but I found it was relatively easy to configure on WebFaction. I mean, they had an automatic installer thing, but still I had to do some stuff myself and fiddle around with config files and stuff, and I had to run some commands to make it run. But it all seemed to work pretty well, so I'm sure that's going to keep growing. Speaking of web stuff, PHP 5.3 has reached the end of its life, basically. The development team have announced that PHP 5.3.29 is available now. And they've also said that this release marks the end of life for PHP 5.3 series. Future releases are not planned for that series. All PHP 5.3 users are encouraged to upgrade to a more current version, current stable version, of 5.5, PHP 5.5, or the previous stable version of 5.4, which is still supported until 2016, it says, and 2015, respectively. So a lot of hosts will be having to sort this out. I'm going to have to check what version of PHP I'm using on one of my hosts, actually.
Hopefully not 5.3.
No, I don't think so. But I mean, now I'm doubting myself. I'll have to go and check. But you're getting. I mean, for a while now, you've already had a lot of complaints from various different pieces of software when you try and run them on top of a stack that uses PHP 5.3. They'll go, "Oh, you need a newer version. You need this. You need that." So yeah, get your stuff up to date if you're. If you're using that. PHP 5.3.29 apparently contains 25 potentially security-related fixes backported from 5.4 and 5.5. So get yourselves updated to 5.5, really, I would say, if you can. Because as we know, PHP can have problems. Well, so can everything.
It will have problems.
Yeah. Another release, the Mono project, is still alive and kicking. Yeah, they've released version 3.6.0. I'm just looking at the features. Okay.
I don't know what any of that does.
Yeah, I'm looking at that, and it says we'll now distribute Nugget on a Mac. Don't know what that means. Chicken nuggets, maybe.
Mm.
Yeah. Chicken nuggets. Real-time performance counters have been integrated into the profiler, it says, allowing the performance counter, blah, 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 information to be surfaced to profiling tools. Okay. In particular, Xamarin's upcoming profile. That probably means something to people who know more about this than me. There's a lot of stuff about the profiler.
Idea.
A lot of stuff about the profiler. And Xamarin is Nat Friedman and Miguel de Casa's company that they basically Miguel kind of founded after leaving Novell to do more mono, and they seem to do a lot of mobile gaming stuff.
I think they're just the actual mono just runs on. They just keep that going on the side. Basically, they're doing mobile game stuff with
on the iPhone and so on.
The iPhone, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So go and check that out. What else have we got? CoreOS. We've talked a lot about Docker and the fact that we like their logo on the show. Yeah. CoreOS, which is the OS that kind of that runs on top of, they've launched a repository for Docker containers.
They've bought it basically.
Yeah, that's what it says. Yeah, it says launch. Maybe it should be lunches because they basically just ate it up.
They bought Key.io.
Key.io. Yeah. It's now part of the CoreOS family, apparently. It says okay. If you're not familiar with Key.io, it's the first hosted private Docker repository. Sorry, Docker registry. In addition to continuing to invest in Key.io, we are launching the CoreOS Enterprise Repository and Enterprise Registry based on Key.io. Enterprise Registry is a solution for companies that want to run their own Docker registry. Okay. So they're going to roll out more stuff with that. It says you can try it out now. For those who want to try it, you can head to Key.io and give the hosted version a go. But they will be out fairly soon. Okay. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else significant in here. Okay, so they're going on about their development team and how great they are, which is fair enough. So Docker very popular at the moment, and lots of people getting into it. So if you are using Docker, you might want to check that out. All right then. What else have we got? Now this is a big one.
Yeah, give me a second. I'll have to take a break. I need to.
Okay.
Just 1 second. I need to cut this out later.
Okay. I'm going to keep talking. I haven't got anything that interesting to say. So, Docker, eh? Wow, what a thing that is. I'm sure. I presume Fab will be back in a minute. I'm not sure what he's gone off to do. Actually, he just said I need to go and then I didn't really hear the rest of it. So maybe there's a shark attack imminent on his internet connection or something. I'm not sure. The Hangout is staying up at the moment. So he's coming back. He's coming back. Okay, he can't hear us, but he will do in a second.
I'm back.
Was that a shark attack? No.
No, it's actually very windy.
And right. Sharknado, dude.
Yeah, I had to close the window, and I could hear the window rattle from across the flat, and I had to close that down. Sorry.
No, that's okay. As long as it's not a Sharknado, you want to be careful with that shit.
I hope not. I hope not.
I heard, as soon as we're going slightly off topic anyway, I heard on, I think it was the last Hollywood Babylon, that got something like, was it 8 million viewers or something? 9 million viewers or something crazy? Sharknado 2 got like ridiculous. Yeah, got the second one, yeah, that's the title of it. Got some ridiculous amount of views on American television. Anyway, yes.
Let's cut that out and let's pretend it never happened.
Okay. So, next story is it's quite a huge one actually. It could potentially be. We've talked for a long time about Munich, city of Munich, and how they were pushing forward with their LiMux or LiMux, I don't know how you want to pronounce it, project, which was basically to move the city administration over to Linux. Now, at the end of 2013, only a mere 8 months ago, or so, 9 months ago, they finished the project and it was all done and everyone seemed happy and so on. And we've talked a lot about it, but it seems there's some people in the city administration who are kind of pushing to move back towards Windows again. Now there may be various different reasons for that, but
we talked about this. This is mostly due to the power change, that they have a new mayor and a new deputy mayor because there were elections and they are from the Conservative Party. Actually the mayor is from SPD, I think, but from Labour Party. But it's like they don't like the mayor. Is on record of being, quote, a Microsoft fan.
Okay.
I think
It's not.
that's his words, actually.
I'm surprised that did he used to work for Microsoft? Is this another Apocalypse situation where like someone moves
no,
away from Microsoft, gets elected, and then goes, by the way, we're going to turn everything onto Windows?
I don't think it's that blatant.
Okay.
But yeah, they're not saying they're examining a switch back. They're saying they had numerous complaints. The guy says wherever he goes, people complain.
Okay.
Which is welcome to IT, man. It's not like people never complained of Windows. Unheard of that. Especially Windows 8. Right.
I did find it interesting that he seems to be claiming in some quarters that this is like an anti-capitalist agenda that they're working on. So he claimed it was a vendetta, or not a vendetta, but revenge against Microsoft for being a big monopolist company.
His party says that. They say that they had that feeling when Munich originally switched in 2003, which is when this whole thing started. It was declared finished in December of last year. Actually, the third mayor, she's an SPD politician, Labour Party. She was the one who declared this finished and stuff. And she's still supporting this. The city council is supporting this. But their arguments are just completely ridiculous. This is like bullshit. I mean, this guy Schmidt is quoted as having said he has the feeling that Linux is very cost intensive.
Feeling.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what he said. He said it's kind of it looks to him as if Linux was very cost intensive because a lot of things have to be programmed by themselves, by ourselves, which is kind of bullshit. And on the other hand, I mean, it doesn't make sense from the inconvenience perspective and from the cost perspective because, like it or not, Munich has now switched.
And they spent a lot of money doing it as well.
And switching back is both going to be very expensive again, and it's going to have a huge complaints because you had people who had to learn to go from Windows to Linux, and they went from XP to Linux, and now you want them to switch from Linux to Windows 8. Which is, I mean, this is going to cost money, and people will be upset. I mean, you will hear a lot of complaints, dude.
No shit, yeah. And then what will we do? Go back to Linux again? Or get Apple in and we'll just spend a fortune and get everything on Apple instead?
Well, throughout the whole project, Microsoft was lobbying, and this has been documented from a lot of angles, and it's clear.
The other thing is, I mean, sorry, I was just going to say, we talked about last year, or it may have been 18 months ago now, something like that, about the report from HP that this had been a disastrous maneuver and all the rest of it. And then, HP supposedly came out with that report that the LiMux project had been a disaster and people shouldn't do this. And then it turned out that Microsoft had paid them to write that report. So, I mean, this just smells more like bullshit to me.
I think it is. I think it's obviously bullshit.
I wonder if he's got shares in Microsoft, and that's why he's so keen to plow more money into it.
No, this is just. I don't think it's anything this involved. They have lobbied. They have tried to lobby against this since for 10, 11 years since it came in, and now they just have people who are more receptive to this. They're from the Conservative Party. They listen to arguments like, oh, this is gonna hurt it's gonna hurt jobs, it's gonna cut jobs and shit like that, and and they're probably more receptive to getting taken out for dinner with a bit of coke on the side and some blowjobs afterwards. I mean, there's nothing new. I think this is pretty obvious. I mean, anybody who looks at the story and reads everything is like, doesn't matter if you like Linux or not. You have to see that. I mean, it's obviously this is millions on the table for Microsoft that they would get if they switched to Windows now again.
And people are talking about this in the IRC actually. Avidius 2 says He says she's not happy with this. What the mayor's got to say. He says the mayor can complain that citizens could not read files produced by the administration when actually their files are all produced in .doc and .odt versions. So how is it possible they couldn't read them?
Yeah, he's just like, his arguments are bullshit. I mean, they are literally bullshit. They are stupid. I mean, you can tell he's not an IT guy. He has no idea what he's talking about. I mean, even before they switched to Linux, they were already running OpenOffice at the time. Now it's probably LibreOffice. I don't know, but
probably before LibreOffice.
And throughout this whole process, I mean, they switched gradually. So there were a point where like half the administration was on Windows, and the other half of the offices were on Linux, and they were completely interoperable because they had use on the Windows machines. This was the first step before they even switched the machines to Linux. They switched the people to Firefox and OpenOffice, and they started producing all their documentation in open standards, which is actually something the German government has said it needs to do, and local states, federal state governments need to do.
Yeah.
So that is so clearly not an argument. It's just like, if you know anything about this topic at all, you know that everything this guy says is basically bullshit. Like, not everything. I mean, I can believe that there are people who have complained.
I bet there are, yeah.
People always complain. Like, now it's Linux, and you switch back to Windows, then they're gonna complain about Windows. Like, and they're gonna complain. Like, we talked about this a long time ago. We talked to Chad Wollenberg.
Yeah, I remember that.
In the US, and like he was saying the same. And like, the thing people hate is change. And the problem with switching to Linux, the biggest problem is change. That's the normal people on the street, people in just an office, normal workers don't give a crap. Like, if they start the job and you train them on Linux, then they'll just use Linux. It's just like, when you change, that's when they're really gonna complain. And like, that means you need to minimize change. And now they've changed and they don't want to change back. That's just ridiculous.
The thing I find really amazing in this day and age as well is, with all these concerns about spying and security and all the rest of it, how people can advocate a return to proprietary software made by an American company that could put anything into it that you'll never even get to see. And all right, you can go, oh, that's stupid, that's tinfoil hat stuff and all the rest of it, and you're just being paranoid. But, I mean, okay, the argument is that, a company would never do that because they're in fear of being sued or losing money or upsetting customers. That is bullshit. And we've seen that. I mean, if anything, we've learned from the Snowden revelations and all this stuff, the companies don't give a fuck. If the government tells them they've got to do something, they'll just fucking do it. That's what happens. Look at Google, look at all the others. So why the hell would anybody, particularly a conservative politician, advocate for the use of black box technology that no fucker understands? Well, it just doesn't make any sense.
Because conservatives don't care about that. They think the government spying on citizens is okay.
True. Yeah, I suppose.
They think of the US as our allies, and they think of like, okay, they spy on our citizens, but they give us the info.
So if Microsoft were like an Iranian company, they'd be fine with that as well, I imagine.
No, because they're
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's a joke, yeah.
But they have a point. Perversely, these people are right in a way. I mean, they are our allies. Our government is actually benefiting from the NSA spying. Because the NSA works very closely with the BND, and they give information to the BND in the Verfassungsschutz. So they don't care about that. But like, citizens should.
Yeah, I would think so.
And whoever I don't know who this idiot is, but like, he shouldn't be deputy mayor. And the mayor is the same way. I mean, I don't even give a fuck what party he's from. I don't give a crap. His arguments are shit.
Yeah. Anyway, so we'll as we haven't said this in a while, but we'll keep an eye on it.
Fucking Microsoft.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it and see what happens. I'm hoping it's just
Windows 8. Seriously, who wants? I mean,
even Microsoft don't want Windows 8.
I think somebody needs to tell this mayor dude that they can't go back to XP.
Well, that's what people want. They just want everything as it was. Yeah. But it's like you said, it's the change that people don't like.
I think these people don't know that Microsoft isn't selling XP anymore.
Probably. The same people who probably still want, OS2 and BBC Micros and God knows whatever else, and Ataris. Anyway, so
I prefer an Atari to fucking Windows 8, to be honest.
speaking of Microsoft and Windows and so on, Microsoft have had problems with their August update. So the Patch Tuesday release that they usually come out with has it's causing instability for systems.
So horrible open source software, where you have to program everything yourself, which is ridiculous and cause complaints everywhere. Let's look at this Microsoft Windows shit. They shipped an update which caused machines to blue screen, get hung up in a blue screen of death loop, which you couldn't get out. Or you let me see. There were three things that could happen. This is PC World. Specifically, Microsoft identified three known issues regarding the behavior, that's what Microsoft called it. It had seen when users installed the update. First, fonts that are installed in a location other than the default fonts directory, which is the Windows directly /fonts, cannot be changed when they are loaded into an active session, essentially locking them in. Second, fonts don't render correctly. The third issue is the most critical, however. Microsoft said that it is investigating reports that systems may crash with a 0x50 stop error message after the updates are installed. That's the loop. Basically, this is the thing they patched in Windows with the patch day update for Windows. The problem is this is GDI, I think. It's Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1. Vista as well.
Anyone still running Vista? Ow. I feel sorry for them.
Hey, I'm running Vista on the actually it's Windows 7. True. Gaming machine.
You're not running. Nobody's running Vista.
Well, it's better than Windows 8. I'd rather run Vista than Windows 8. Have you seen Windows 8?
I've used Windows 8, 8.1 as well.
Well, 8.1's okay again. That's kind of okay. Like when I use Windows 8, it's like I want to click on something and I slide my mouse over the screen and this shit keeps popping in from all sides. Like, oh, you did a gesture. No, I fucking tried to click on an icon. That's not a fucking gesture. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, I think the answer to that is like, this is a gesture.
Yeah, exactly.
For the benefit of
brother.
The video people, people watching on the video. I mean, I have had that problem as well.
I think I read somebody intelligent said at some point that Microsoft moved font rendering, so GDI, into the kernel at some point to speed up font rendering, which was horrible. And since then, for years they've had horrible bugs where basically people exploit the fact that it renders fonts in the kernel with admin rights. So
it's just bizarre. Why?
That's like how a lot of the PDF exploits actually work in Adobe Reader. Or like actually web exploits, because it will exploit the way it renders fonts and then own Windows.
That's amazing, though. Needing admin privileges to render fonts.
Well, to be honest, we have the same on Linux right now because X runs as root.
Xorg,
I think it's a wonder if you look at the how shitty X is, especially in security, like how shitty it's designed because it's so old. It's a wonder that there aren't more root exploits in X. Luckily, they're working to fix that. One of the big things in Wayland is that it will not need to run as root.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes sense.
Yeah, from a security perspective, unless you absolutely need to have like root privileges, why would you do that?
There's actually, if you think about it, there's no real reason your display server needs to run as root. It can run under the user. I mean, if it crashes, it locks out the user anyway, and it's like, it doesn't. That's like a kernel interface thing because it needs to access stuff in the hardware and shit that usually only root users can, but you can re-engineer that in a way that users, a normal user account has enough rights to run a display server, and I think they're actually fixing that. I think they're basically moving the stuff that needs to run as root separately in a kind of a module that runs in the kernel, and then the main
I was going
part
to say
runs
into
as a
kernel
user,
space. Yeah.
so that if somebody owns it, basically the exploit's on a user level, not a root level.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
Display driver does basically everything, so you can. There's lots of attack surfaces. It's kind of like font rendering. Fonts are rendered everywhere, so the attack surface for that is huge.
True. Everything's got fonts, pretty much, I suppose. And I mean, text is everywhere.
Yeah, especially on the web, which is the attack surface you want, really.
Yeah, that's true. Moving on, we got some a few stories actually about kind of in security and so on, and hacking and stuff. So, and spying particularly. First up, this is back to, you talked about BND, the German. Actually, this is a different story if I'm reading this right. Sorry, I'm thinking of the wrong story here.
No, this is something actually Heise broke. This is stuff that Jacob Applebaum and Laura Poitras were involved in. Basically, it's port scanning. It's documents from GCHQ and actually the Canadian intelligence service. What they're called again? Oh God.
Computers,
no, CSE. And basically, they're doing port scanning. So basically, what these security services do is they scan the web, specifically countries that are not in the Five Eyes. They scan huge IP ranges for vulnerable servers, and then they own them stealthily, with the intent to create so-called ORBs, orbs.
Orbs, yeah, I saw that earlier. I love the term orb.
Boxes, so that's basically if
get off my orbs, man.
Yeah, if they want to attack somebody, then they go through these to so you can't
to
see
anonymize the attack, basically, isn't it?
This is basically I'm guessing they're owning a lot of boxes in China. You know how everything, when somebody's hacked, it's always China or Russia?
Yeah.
So if you manage to do this, if you're the NSA and you own a lot of Chinese systems and you actually want to hack a target in the US, like
you would make sense to do it from from there.
And you say, oh, look, the Chinese are hacking them. So that's basically what they're doing. It's not massively surprising, I think, but it's something that Heise broke, and we got a link from Schneier. Yay!
Wow, okay.
So that's kind of cool.
I think, I mean, we've talked about this many times, but I mean, I think the kind of not so secret of internet security is that everyone is hacking everyone. And they deny it and they go, oh, we're not doing that. But every fucking country seems to be hacking every other country. It's all right. There are things like the Five Eyes thing. They've got kind of allegiances and so on, but they're always doing it. And the thing that annoys me most about this is this orb situation, what they call the orb, operational relay box. So using basically completely innocent people's computers to launch an attack. It's the equivalent of like starting a war and then grabbing someone and going, oh, quick, I need a human shield, and then like moving them in front of you. This isn't it?
Basically what they do. This mostly service, because I guess they need stuff that's always online,
fair
so
enough.
They'll hack your or mine web server and then use that in an attack. That is crap.
It is, also, yeah.
The thing with this is, and why I think the term cyber war is wrong, is what you said is actually not right per se. You are right, but it's not actually every country hacking every other country. This is stuff like an organized intelligence service from a country hacking a company or individuals in another country.
In another, yeah.
So let's say the NSA will hack a German company. And this is weird because this shifts. This is not like war, right? This is like the U.S. military attacking VW because they want to destroy. They want to destroy German economy. Well, actually, not. They can't. That would Well, it would be because you're.
I was joking, but yeah.
No, yeah, it's weird. I'm trying to put the point.
Yeah,
This is weird because if that happened in the real world, that would be war.
Yeah, people wouldn't accept it. Yeah, people.
Well, no. What you have to do that is the U.S. military would have to actually infringe on German soil. So they would actually threaten the sovereignty of Germany in that process. So that would actually be war.
Yeah.
Now in the internet, because there's no territory of a country, so this is why all those cyber war people, they're usually advisors from intelligence services who then make a lot of money in the private sector. What they say is completely wrong because they will say, well, there's attacks on the US. And that's not right because the US or Germany, there's no national presence.
Borders, yeah.
Yeah. So if the NSA hacks my web server and I'm in Germany, I'm a German citizen, let's say I don't, but let's say for the purpose of this argument, I have a server with a German company and it's like all German stuff, and the NSA hacks that. That is not an attack on Germany, that's an attack on me.
Yeah.
That will not be interpreted by the German state as an act of war. Whereas if the U.S. Army waltzes into Isenhagen and decides to flatten my house with mortars, that would actually be interpreted as a declaration of war by the German state, a violation of German territory, and that creates a really weird situation on the internet where they can do this kind of shit. So you are right. It's basically everybody hacks everybody, but the states are not responsible, and the targets usually aren't states. So the Chinese, if they're really that Chinese military hacking group, they will not hack the Pentagon. They will hack Lockheed Martin.
Or Halliburton or someone.
Or companies, and then they will steal what for the US is strategic information. Actually, it does pertain to the national security, kind of, but it's not like an attack on the US as they always put it. And it's really weird to deal with that because that creates a situation where everybody can attack everybody else and blame it on somebody else, and nobody does anything about it. It's like the Wild West of. It's like there's no international law when it comes to hacking.
No, but the other thing is,
accountability.
You're right. Yeah, the companies rather than a lot of the time it's companies rather than states. But then at the same time, if you look at the examples like Halliburton and all these other companies, often they are running effectively fighting the war on behalf of the country. Has got them anyway. They're supplying the tanks and all the other shit. So it's kind of hard. The lines between the companies and the states have kind of blurred as well because you've got private armies in some cases now, and you've got all these crazy fucking weapons that are being made by Lockheed Martin and all these other companies. That's just an example, and to use the US. So it's kind of weird as well. So in some way, you could say that was a clear military target. If they were going for so a company that produces drones or God knows what else. Anyway, so before we get too far down that rabbit hole, because we've been down it. This next story is the one I was thinking of actually when I said about the BND before. You'll have to pronounce it, but the BND, which is
Bundesnachrichtendienst.
Yeah, them. Yeah, basically the German equivalent of GCHQ or one of those.
That's the CIA.
Oh right, okay.
We actually do not have a signal intelligence. We have BND, which is the exterior intelligence service. That's like MI6. We have Verfassungsschutz, which is MI5.
Right.
Then we have MAD, which is the military.
Mad. MAD.
MAD, they're the Militärische Abschirmdienst. They are signal intelligence agency, but they're aimed at defense of the military. So actually, BND does the signals intelligence. So we do not have an NSA or GCHQ.
So the BND basically have been spying on Turkish and US calls, particularly. They claim by accident. They intercepted a call from Hillary Clinton, former U.S. Secretary of State. And she was apparently using a satellite phone to talk to Kofi Annan, and it was accidentally intercepted by the BND.
What can we say? What can we say? It happens. It happened.
Yeah.
You know how it is.
They claim she was using the same frequency as a terror suspect.
That is bullshit. This is from Der Spiegel, and I read this, and I actually wrote a story on this on the weekend during my weekend shift, and I just ignored that. I just didn't go into the details because that is bullshit. I mean, that's why the Register puts it in air quotes.
Yeah.
Because
I was going to say, satellite phones don't use radio frequency.
They do use
in the same way.
Yeah, they do. But first of all, they're digital now.
True.
So, like, it's encoded. Like, even if it's on the same frequency, you can tell what signals would signal. And presumably they're fucking encrypted. So you can. I mean, I believe them. I actually do believe that they did this by accident.
By mistake, but it must have taken some effort.
Well, no, I mean, if let's say Kofi Annan talks to like somebody, Kofi Annan talks to everybody. Mm-hmm. He's the UN guy, right? So he talks to countries that the BND might be spying on because they have the mandate to spy on that country. Mm-hmm. And then they spy on his phone because he's talking to, I don't know, let's say the Iraqi guy, right? And we're still spying on the Iraqis for some reason, whatever. Because they're all terrorists. I don't know. And then they record that. And then Kofi grabs the satellite phone, and after that calls up Hillary Clinton. And like you're spying on his fucking phone. You're presumably just catching everything and then deciding later. So I can understand where they got this. It's just the whole frequency thing is obviously red herring or
maybe they did it. Well, maybe they did it to try and make it so ordinary readers could at least think they understood it in some way. Also,
Clink, what frequency is Hillary Clinton on again today?
Yeah.
It's frequency 7, is it?
Yeah.
Well, that sounded British, actually. Is it?
Yeah, it did a little bit.
What frequency is it? What free? You fucking idiot! You spied on the Hillary Clinton! That was not supposed to happen. She is a very nice lady. We were supposed to spy on the fucking terrorists.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to make a mistake. Turkey, who are also members of NATO, they've been targeted according to documents that were leaked a while ago, dating from 2009. Apparently, they were identified as official targets, Turkish nationals and so on, and Turkish politicians. One of the first things I thought of actually when I read this story was maybe it was retaliation for Merkel being hacked by the NSA all the time. But they're saying it's not that. BND spokeswoman came out and said this was not. She downplayed suggestions that US politicians had become a target as a reprisal, which, to be honest, probably is a bit silly. As a reprisal.
I mean, I don't understand why the Register didn't get this, because the story is basically they spied on Clinton and Kerry.
Yeah.
And if you remember when Kerry was Secretary of State, it can't be. When other way around, when Clinton was Secretary of State, it can't be reprisal for the NSA thing
Well, that wasn't known at the time. Yeah.
Also, we know it was years ago, and it's like so. So that wasn't the case.
They've just got a big machine sucking in all the phone calls, and then they go, "Oh no, we've got another one that we shouldn't have got."
I kind of understand. Well, one thing is like the Greens and the left were like, that's yesterday's news. They were completely outraged that they were spying on the Turkey or whatever.
On the Turkey.
Well, on Turkey, yeah. Sorry.
Just a specific turkey that happened to be there.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on that turkey.
Yeah. Spying on the turkey, yeah.
Maybe it was around Christmas and they didn't want it getting away.
What is the turkey saying?
Yeah.
Gobble, gobble, gobble. As always, Herr Oberst.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, what was I gonna say? Well, I can actually understand that. Because like this is probably a while ago, but still, like they might be a NATO member, right? But Turkey is kind of in a special position, and it's kind of important what they're doing right. I mean, Turkey is at a crossroads right now. I mean, Turkey, as in Ataturk's Turkey, was a very secular state and very an experiment in the middle, or in the whatever, in that area in the Middle East, and it's now changing a lot. It's becoming a very Islamist state, and they're also applying for EU membership, or they want to apply to, which is like even under that geopolitical situation, I can understand that we're spying on them. Like, what's happening in Turkey in the last year? Fuck, I'd be spying on them. Like, if you see what Erdogan is doing, the stuff he's doing is really worrying. Yeah. And the way he's, I mean, he was like saying that women shouldn't laugh in public, for fuck's sake. Like, I'd be spying on that guy too. If I was Merkel, I would want to know what that fucking crazy bastard's up to.
Yeah.
But anyway, the thing is why this is a story is, of course, because our politicians were like, they didn't care about the Snowden revelations at all. As soon as it was clear that they spied on Merkel, there was this huge outrage. Well, they spied on allies, and now this comes out. Which of course takes all the wind out of the sail of that argument, because we did it too. Which I said, I remember, I specifically remember I said this, I think also on the show when the whole Merkel phone came out. It's like, I'm sure we are doing this as well. We're doing this to the Americans, which of course is true. We know. The interesting thing is, so basically the Department of the BND who intercepted these calls brought this to an attention of the superiors and high up in the BND, and they said, well, we have to delete these. And apparently they gave this data to delete to the guy who was the CIA double agent, which is how this came out. I'm pretty sure this came out. They're investigating this whole thing. He's confessed. He's being held in prison right now. He's being interrogated, and there's a huge investigation about this. So I think this is why this came out. This is also why they know that the BND spied on Turkey, because he gave a document to the CIA, which has all the targets of like all the countries the BND is spying on. So they gave this to the double agent, so he told the US. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if the US knew this was coming out anyway, or would be coming out, and they already, the whole double agent thing has happened. So I wouldn't be surprised if somebody from the US didn't leak this information to the German press, because this coming out plays massively in the hands of the US, because now they can say, well,
it looks good for them.
You're spying too. So your argument is not valid. I have to read out one last thing, one thing from the Register story, which I found hilarious. I don't know if the Register put this in, if this is a joke or whatever, but that summoning an ambassador is like one of the biggest escalations you can do in diplomacy. Is like, you can summon the ambassador, then you can kick him out of the country, and the next stage is closing the embassy, and then there's
war.
So this says, quote, Turkey's foreign ministry has reportedly summoned the German ambassador for a meeting without coffee! It's like the ultimate insult. And Turkey, who, by the way, invented the coffee, brought coffee to Europe when they...
For you, there will be no coffee.
Yeah, when they invaded Vienna, it's like, we summoned the ambassador. This is not a friendly meeting. I will drink coffee. There will be no coffee for you.
Yeah. I do like the idea of the Turkish officials all sat around drinking their coffee going, it's so good. Sorry, no, there's none for you, no.
No coffee for you.
Yeah, no coffee for you today. So I refer you to my earlier point. Everybody is spying on everybody, pretty much. So it seems. All right, then let's step on the gas a little bit. So Julian Assange, he gave a press conference today, I think it was.
Yeah.
In which a lot of people said basically he said nothing. From what I read of the coverage, they were like, well, basically nothing. That was a big waste of time. But he did come out and say that he may be leaving, in very cryptic fashion, he may be leaving the Ecuadorian embassy, which is kind of weird. It's like he doesn't know himself what his his plans are supposed to be. He's quoting the spokesperson, the WikiLeaks spokesperson, Kristin I can't say this. Hrafnsson, or something.
Apparently that's a guy as well.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
Well, it says in the story, Mister.
Yeah, you're right, actually. Yeah, and it says spokesman as well, so I suppose. Rather than spokesperson.
That's the most amazing name. Is he like Klingon or something?
Yeah. So Assange came out and said, I understand that Kristin Hrafnsson has said that he can confirm that I am leaving the embassy soon. And then he said, he added it was not because of medical treatment, which has been reported in some UK press.
Yeah,
he was pressed
the press
when
said
he was...
he had a heart condition or something.
Yeah, and when he was asked to basically clarify what he was saying, he just said, I think I've said enough, in which he didn't really say anything particularly,
You know what Kristin Hrafnsson said when asked by the press? He said, oh, I used to be an adventurer, I like you, and then I took an arrow to the knee.
Then I took an arrow to the Ecuadorian embassy. Anyway, so yeah, we don't know. It's possible he could be leaving, but I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot more to develop on that. Finally, we got more hacking stuff. Hacking story. Finfisher. Their creators have been hacked apparently, according to this. Is that right? Have I read that right? Finfisher hacked. So go on, tell us about this one.
Yeah, Finfisher is Gamma Group. It's like a German UK company. They do Finfisher, which is a Trojan, and they've been hacked actually a while ago, and the documents leaked about their business practices. And I mean, we talked about Finfisher before. But like, you wanted to shorten this, so I'm gonna make this quick. Well, there was also something that came out, which actually wasn't from the leaked documents, but it's a study that now came out that people should read. I'm gonna put a link in the show notes. It's pretty amazing. So basically, it describes how you can own. People assume that they can only get hacked if they click on stupid links or stuff in email and stuff. But this is like how they can. This is government level stuff, and this is how they target activists and shit. Basically, the Finfisher, or there's a Italian company called Hacking Team. They sell an appliance that the government will put in, basically in the network of your ISP. And then if they want to target you, and let's say for the purpose of this argument, which is his example is you go to YouTube and watch a cat video, they'll wait till you connect to YouTube, and then they will actually in the video stream on the fly embed malware that can actually be installed in your machine through 0 days. That, let's say, with 0 day in Windows, that Finfisher builds into their software, which nobody has reported, and then they own your machine without any user interaction whatsoever. You didn't went to a malicious website, no malicious link, trusted website, but they on the fly put this in your data stream coming from the ISP. And this actually works. There are open source tools which you can use which do this, which actually package malware on the fly. If people are interested, there is a tool, what's it called again? The Backdoor Factory. It's on GitHub, BDF proxy, which you can put malware into. You can basically, for example, user goes, requests a Flash update from Adobe, and it will embed malware in the file that's downloaded. It's coming from the Adobe server, but it has malware in it, which got injected in the way. And the only way to solve this is to switch to HTTPS. And YouTube has actually said they're working on going HTTPS for all their.
Oh, that would
content.
be useful. Yeah.
Well, but there's still a lot of sites that can't do this for financial reasons and stuff.
Well, I was going to say, Google have got the resources to be able to, pay for that shit. Other sites probably not so much. Other companies not so much. Cool. All right, and so we should probably talk about some of the feedback that we've had in the last week or so. we had, firstly, I wanted to mention this one just because I thought it was something we should quickly mention publicly. Dustin Williams was unhappy about the amount of off-topic discussion during the show. It says, lately I haven't made it to Linux content before hitting the skip button. I've been listening for a few years and would hate to have to find a Linux podcast that talks about Linux. So I thought we'd mention this publicly just because I think as you've said, from the very start of the show, we've always had lots of random stuff in it, and I don't think that's ever going to change. So I think if you want a specifically kind of Linux news on-topic show all the time, you probably need to look for another show. That's the way it's always been. I don't know.
And we've never made a secret out of this. This says it in the show description. On the show page, on iTunes, this is everywhere. It says we talk about random stuff. I think an example I used is like random hockey teams or music you've never heard of.
Well, it's the same thing. I mean, I know there's a famous saying, you can't please everyone, but other people in the IRC now are saying how much they love the random stuff. So we get exactly the opposite kind of feedback as well from people going, oh, it's really good when you talk about stuff that's just,
I think
off topic.
That's just how the show was. I mean, this is just like, yes, we talk about Linux and open source, and it's called Linux Outlaws, but it was always a show of just like us talking to each other, which is the fun part, which is, I can't talk to you about, for you, but I think for me, that's the reason I do this. Because
and plus, without the off-topic stuff, I wouldn't have much to talk about.
It would be boring as well. I mean, that's not the point of the show. The point of the show is for you to be entertained. Of course, you should get information as well. But I do my best. Right. Well, yes, and we're late because it's only once a week, and I don't have time to do it earlier and shit like that. So, but I try to put information in this, and then as well. And I think the rest is just us having fun. And if you don't like that, but the thing I didn't appreciate about this email, which I don't appreciate about getting feedback anyway. I like feedback. I also like getting negative feedback. Feedback when we do something wrong. What I don't appreciate is implicit threats. I'd hate for me to go somewhere else, which I don't give a fuck. I don't care. We don't do this show to have a massive amount of listeners. If we would,
that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, it'd be more like Twit, and there wouldn't be any Hitler references, and we wouldn't be swearing because that's how you get listeners. But
it'd probably be short. It would probably be a shorter show as well because I think that's people like short, kind of sharp shows. But anyway, I mean, I think the bottom line for me is I don't think the show's going to change, and I didn't put the email in just to have a go at this person in particular. I think if people feel that way, then I would warn you that you probably need to find a show that's more based around purely Linux news if that's what you're after.
Speaking of random stuff, I know get completely distracted. For the audio listeners, Dan is wearing a shirt that says RP55 jeans, which I in the beginning of the show was like, oh, RP55, that's really random. And then he said somebody's told him it looks like piss jeans, and it actually does. And now the whole show I keep reading piss jeans and get really distracted.
Yeah, someone at work told me today that not today actually, a while ago when I wore the same shirt, they said your T-shirt says piss jeans, and I said no, it doesn't. It says RP55 jeans. I don't even know what it is. I mean, I don't know who the company are. I've had this shirt for years, but now obviously people think piss jeans. Who cares? Piss jeans is a good brand name. Why not? It's memorable. It's memorable, if nothing else. Get some of those new piss jeans. All right, and so where are we up to? So thanks to Dustin for that. I hope you do continue to listen, but if not, I understand. Yeah. Remy Van Elst, one of our frequent emailers, he was, you were talking about the Dutch version of CT magazine. He said, about the Dutch version of CT, I usually buy the German version. Never had it at school, just French and English, but I have the opposite problem to Fab. It looks a lot like Dutch, and most of the text is in context, quite easy to place and understand. So you even have people. So you even help people learning languages. It says, I do, however, think the vocal examples Fab gives are only relevant in reference to Godwin's law, or only irrelevant in a talk about Godwin's law. He also says the motorbike looks awesome. A bigger beard would fit better, but the situation as it just would fit better, but the situation as it just drips with awesomeness. Okay.
As it does, I think. Or as
Right.
it did.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, it might be me reading that wrong. So he thinks you should have a bigger beard, apparently.
Well, this beard is pretty. Well, I cut it yesterday, but it's
quite big. Yeah.
It's as big as it ever was, and there's a limit. There's a producer. There's a producer.
Have you measured?
Katie
Do you have a measurement for that? Do you have
no,
a measurement?
it's basically we kiss,
Mm-hmm.
and then producer Katie says, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
You need to cut your beard.
you need to pull it back a bit.
Fair enough. Thanks to Remy for that. We had one from Richard in Perth, Western Australia.
Can't
He
please
says,
everyone.
yeah, true. He says, I'm going to read it in an Australian accent. He says, love your show. You're a great team that always has me laughing. I can't say laughing in Australian. Laughing, or smiling. And I also learned some great shit about soccer/football and occasionally Linux.
See, that's one of the guys who likes the show as it is.
Yeah, true. I came across this. I should have put that next to the other one, shouldn't I? I came across this site, motherfucking. Whoa, what happened there? You've just posted something. Yeah, I came across this website, and he gives the address. The address is motherfuckingwebsite.com. The other day that made me laugh. And I think anyone who's designed websites will find it funny. Keep up the great work. So I had a look at it, and it's quite funny. It's just a load of text, basically. And it's
funny text.
Yeah, it is. This is a website. Look at it. You've never seen one before.
This could be by I'm going to follow this guy on Twitter. This could be by Jezra. So it basically says this is motherfucking website. Well, guess what, motherfucker? It's fucking lightweight. It's responsive. It fucking works. This website, look at it. You've never seen one before.
Yeah.
Yes, this is fucking satire, you fuck. And then at the bottom it says, quote, good design is as little design as possible. Some German motherfucker.
Yeah. I like the bit where it says, it's responsive, you dumbass. You thought you needed the media queries to be responsive, but no. Oh, go on.
No, you go, sorry.
I was going to say, but you thought you needed media queries to be responsive, but no. Responsive means that it responds to whatever motherfucking size it's screen size it's viewed on. This site doesn't care if you're on an iMac or a motherfucking Tamagotchi.
The guy's amazing. I'm going to follow him on Twitter as well. At the Baritone.
Right, okay.
Barry, B-A-R-R.
Oh, yeah, right. It's at the bottom there.
Look him up. That's a beard.
Wow, okay, I'm just waiting for it to load.
And he's got
Doge.
And he's got Doge as a background, so yeah.
He has, yeah, he's got Doge on there. That's pretty good. And yeah, web designer it says. Yeah, okay, interesting. Recovering musician.
Motherfucking beard.
That's a big beard. Yeah, that's a proud beard. Anyway, so thanks to Richard for that one. Gary says you do realise listeners to Linux Outlaws who play the Fab Nazi drinking game. LO356, episode 356, was completely Nazi-free, though there was a reference to Anne Frank. He says close, but not a Godwin violation. So I think we've rectified that today a little bit.
Hitler, Goebbels, Himmler, take a drink.
There you go. All right, and so Bill says, hey guys, I enjoyed the episode of your show where you mentioned boycottsystemd.org. If you're still interested in debate, as you mentioned in the podcast, myself and some other minds behind the site.
Made the website.
Wow, okay. Other minds behind the site can be reached by IRC. And he says so I won't read out all the details, but we'd need someone to argue for System D, wouldn't we? So we need to sort that end of it out. But I think it's a good idea. Get people in to talk.
Jan Wildeboer or something.
Yeah, I suppose he could.
From Red Hat, of course he's pro System D.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. Can't we get Leonard on? We need to get Leonard on. That would be good.
That would be funny. We need to have like a round table.
Yeah, that could be interesting. So we'll try and
microphone from the top, you know.
Oh yeah, wow. Let's get ready to rumble.
We're here today to fight out System D versus Boycott System D. In one corner, King of the world, father of the Unix system, the one and only Leonard Petering.
Actually, I know now that you've mentioned that, I should mention I was editing a recent episode of Freezing Freedom in which Leonard was a guest actually. But it was him and it was him and Karen and so on. But apparently during the show anyway, or at the end of the show, there was a bit of audio where they were talking about pronouncing his name, and apparently it's not Pottering, it's Patring. Is how you pronounce it, like Patring. Apparently, is how he pronounces it. So I don't know, Leonard Patring.
It's Pottering.
Well, apparently it's not in his.
If he wants to
it's Leonard.
out, fucking idiot! It's Pottering.
It's Leonard. He can do what he wants. He's going to pronounce his own. He's going to come up with his own name pronunciation system.
My last name isn't Scherschel. No.
Scherschel.
No. That's pronounced motherfucking Scherschel to you.
Yeah, true. All right, and so finally we had an email from Alison Chaikin, who's our resident embedded Linux expert. Says, perhaps I'm missing something obvious. This is in reference to the story we talked about.
Sorry, I can't get over that.
Sure, you'll probably hear the audio at some point.
Your mic's cutting out.
Oh, is it?
I don't know if that's only on my side.
I can't. Okay, it's not cutting out here. It's coming through my headphones. Okay. Well, hopefully the recording's okay. It's probably a network issue or something. So what was I going to say? Yeah, Alison wrote in reference to our discussion about USB and the insecurity of USB, and people using fake USB keyboards to inject text and so on. So she says, perhaps I'm missing something obvious, but it seems easy enough to prevent a USB keyboard from ever attaching to a computer by using either of these two methods. Method 0, as she's put it, using UDEV rules. You're basically blocking it with UDEV, essentially. And I suppose a little bit like using, what's his name? A blacklist on the firewall, and using MAC address filtering and only allowing certain things. You probably could do that, but it sounds like quite a ball ache to me. Anyway, so I'll explain the two things and then you can reply. So yeah. You can use the HID, the hardware interface device. And choose, human interface device. It should be easy to block all of them. Even on a system where USB is the only possible attachment method for HIDs, also including mice, it should be possible to allow only a Bluetooth device to connect to USB and connect HIDs that way. Okay. She said, what was the other option as well? She's basically disabling it in the kernel, essentially, was the other option, I think, if I've read it right. Because she also says, hey, my desktop has a kernel module called USB. Suppose I prevented it from ever loading. Okay, so blacklisting the module in the kernel, the use USB, hardware interface, a human interface device thing. So just blocking it, basically, taking it out of the kernel. She says, please tell me why these arguments are wrong. Why would I glue USB ports? That's crazy. So I know you've got some thoughts on this, so I'll let you reply.
I'm distracted. The ISC was saying, Mitzi was saying, his name is pronounced Leonard Patring.
Yeah, Leonard
Patring. And then Fentogor says his name is spelled Raymond Luxury Yacht, but it's pronounced Thread Wobbler Mangrove.
Nice.
Yeah, so I don't know. It sounds to me like she's with the blocking in the UDEV. So the one thing was basically turning off USB HID in UDEV or whatever, or with the kernel module, which is the same as gluing your USB port shut because you can't use USB keyboard or mouse. And I guess the other thing is like you figure out the USB IDs of your keyboard and mouse, and then everything else.
Yeah.
Which has that could. Theoretically, somebody could still attack you then if they figure out what the USB ID of your keyboard or mouse is. Also, they're sometimes very generic. And then the other problem would be if your keyboard dies, if you don't get the exact same keyboard again, you will never be able to use your computer again, which would be a problem. You could avoid this if you have a PS2 connector on your machine, but like every machine I've used in the last few years didn't have
Yeah, they're becoming less common. I think there's a couple of differences. I suppose gluing your USB ports shut would mean you couldn't do anything with any kind of USB device. So I suppose it would be marginally better that you could still use another USB device.
Well, that's why companies do that. I mean, she's saying that's crazy, but like in companies like, I don't know, I think German car manufacturers, which is from that kind of industry, I think they do that. People like I've heard people like VW, like if you work there, they actually buy like old Nokia phones without cameras for their employees because they're not allowed to take pictures. You're not allowed to have a camera phone inside the company. And I think places like that would probably glue the port shut as well. I mean, you could do that in software, but there's always like a way around that again.
Well, interestingly, in response to the thing about how would you get back in if you blocked it like this, and your keyboard died, Avidius 2 is saying you can block after the boot, and so it only uses the USB HID already attached. So what it's saying, I suppose what he's saying is when you boot it up, it would lock to the keyboard that's plugged in at the time and not allow any others.
That goes to the thing how I would say, sorry, I was just going to say how you can circumvent everything like that. You wait for the system to reboot and then boot from the stick.
Well, that's true, actually, because you were talking about rebooting.
Yeah, that circumvents everything. I mean, yes, there are probably ways to block this hack, but it's really hard. And they're all clutches, because the problem you're facing is that USB is, by definition, insecure. And the other problem you're facing is this is not like a firewall. Like an IP filter in the kernel, the actual firewall, you're defending against an attack, or you're filtering stuff that comes from the outside, and it comes to a barrier on your machine, and the machine can tell what comes from the outside of your network or whatever, the connection, and what's where, and you can filter at that point. But with the USB, it's local. It's like a user. It's hard for the computer to tell. Like, you have to tell the computer beforehand if what you're plugging in is expected or not. And USB, the other things, like the whole USB, the HID thing, the way USB devices actually register with computers is fucked. So, for example, my first idea was, okay, you could use SE Linux. I was talking to people at work. I said, okay, let's say
set a policy,
and set a policy that something can't, for example, say it's a mouse and a keyboard at once, and just block that. But you can't, because it turns out a lot of keyboards actually register themselves as mice, because, for example, they have touchpads or they have special buttons that are usually considered mice buttons, or mice that have more buttons than are normal for the mice drivers and Windows or whatever, will actually register as a keyboard, because they're like gaming mice, they have a ton of buttons.
Right.
So there's all this kind of stuff. There's actually USB sticks which register as keyboards to do certain things that you can't do with a normal USB stick driver. And it's just, it's a clusterfuck. You need to fix the protocol. I think that's the only solution that's going to work in the long run. Otherwise, it's just going to be a cat and mouse game. I block this, like antivirus software.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just apparently Greg Hartman's been talking about this on the mailing lists and so on, and on the OSS security list, he's been posting some possible ideas about what he thinks could be done. So I don't know. I imagine people like him know a lot more about it than I do anyway, and may come up with something. Fingers crossed. So that'll probably continue to run and run, I would imagine, that debate. So if you want to tell us about it, then you can always email us. Email linuxoutlaws@sixgun.org, or go onto the Saloon and do it there. And finally, seeing as we're up to like 2 hours almost, I'm going to quickly mention the last email. This was a fuck up on my part, to be honest. Barry Williams, aka Baz and Will, we mentioned last week his email where he talked about the fact that 525,600 minutes.
Yeah, and we were like, where the
was
fuck is that
a
coming
year.
from?
Yeah. Well, I thought it was in reference to the fact that we were talking about having enough Linux Outlaws to last a year. Anyway, doesn't matter. It turns out he says here, my original email was directed to Rat Hole Radio, as the number was mentioned by a band about a productive 525,600 minutes. And yes, it is in the song Seasons of Love. So that was probably my fault. I don't know how. It definitely turned up in the Linux Outlaws mail folder, so I don't know if he sent it to a 6gun mail address, which is possible, rather than the Rat Hole Radio one. But that was my fault, so apologies to Barry for that. If you want to email us, you can do. Please send your emails to linuxoutlaws@6gun.org. That's linuxoutlaws@6gun.org, and go to saloon.6gun.org to get involved in the discussion there. It's a really good place to get quick answers and get into proper discussions with all the other people as well. Go to 6gun.org, check out the website. You can find all kinds of things on there, such as the notes for this show with all links to all the stories and photos and other things in there, and also other shows on the network as well, if you want to check those out. I think that's all I need to mention, isn't it? I don't know. Oh, thanks to everyone who supported us as well. I think.
Yep, definitely.
I think that's it. All right, then. So we're going to finish with a song. This is a new song, relatively new song. Came out 2-3 weeks ago, from David Rovix, who we've played on the show many times. American singer-songwriter, political protester, and protest singer and songwriter. And he's just released a new album called All the News That's Fit to Sing. And this is the title track off that album, which is, funnily enough, called All the News That's Fit to Sing. Yeah. And you can get the album on Bandcamp, actually. I bought a copy on Bandcamp yesterday. I'm just going to check, actually, when it came out, because it should tell me. There you go. Oh, 1st of July. So it's been out, just over a month, 6 weeks. So it's really good, and it's got 16 tracks on it. And a little tip as well, if you buy the album, or if you just download it for free, in fact, because it's on Name Your Own Price. On Bandcamp, you get 2 extra songs. There's actually 18 songs on the album. There's 2 bonus songs that aren't listed on there, and one of them's about Gaza as well, which is interesting. So go and check it out. It's at davidrovix.bandcamp.com. I'll do a Google search for him, and we're going to finish with this. Yeah, should we play the music?
Let's do that, and we'll see you again next week, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it may be a different day, because I wouldn't mind changing day next week.
Yeah, and Dan's helping with editing the show, because my birthday's coming up this week, and I'm riding around to northern Germany on my motorbike. And just remember, we'll be back, but always remember, my last name may be spelled Scherschel, but it's actually pronounced Bomble Schlurp Rumblewitz. Just remember.
How fitting, yeah, how fitting. All right, then. So have a listen to this. This is David Rovix with All the News That's Fit to Sing. We'll see you. You'll hear us, whatever, next week. Take care till then. Stay free, stay open source, and all of that. We'll speak to you soon.
Bomble Slurp Rumblewitz.
There's a war on for your mind, it's right there on your screen. Watch the pundits ramble on to find the term and set the scene. Hear the pundits say this is the best that it can get. There may be room for improvement. Just stay tuned to your set. Just stay tuned to your set. They'll tell you all you need to know. If it's anything important, they'll have it on the show. There's a war on for the planet. There's a war on for your mind. The outcome of the struggle is the fate of humankind. You can drink Kool-Aid, buy the goods that you are sold. Watch the talking heads. Think the way you're told. Think the way they tell you. Hold fast to the lies, or stick your finger in the wind and trust your ears and eyes. Turn off your TV, or you won't learn a thing. Gather round, I'll give you all the news that's fit to sing. Gather round, I'll give you all the news that's fit to sing. Some democracies are tyrannies, you can hear them say, while some dictatorships are friendly. They'll tell us every day, if your passion is pro-baseball, you can surely get the score. But if you want to know what's happening, walk outside your door. See the oil train exploding, see the black smoke in the sky, see the kids under the bridge, see the limo pass by. Turn off your TV, or you won't learn a thing. Gather round, I'll give you all the news that's fit to sing. Gather round, I'll give you all the news that's fit to sing. It's a question for the moment, a question for the ages, for the businessmen and prisoners, rattling their cages, for the businessmen and prisoners, be they lost or found upon the rising oceans, or cracked dry desert ground. It's a choice that we're all faced with, or so it seems to me. I don't have all the answers, but I can guarantee, turn off your TV, or you won't learn a thing. Gather round, I'll give you all the news that's fit to sing. Turn off your TV, or you won't learn a thing. Gather round, I'll give you all the news that's fit to sing. Gather round, I'll give you all the news that's fit to sing.
Yeah. There you go. That was David Rovics with All the News That's Fit to Sing, which is the title track off his new album. So go and check it out on Bandcamp.
Petring.
Petring.
Petring. I can't get over that.
Petring.
Leonard. Leonard.
Well, it's Lennart, isn't it? It's got like an ART at the end.
Leonard.
Yeah, Petring. Maybe we should. I'm definitely sure that's what he says.
Yeah, probably. He's just so envious of Linus, who's like, right. Linus Torvalds.
Linus?
Leonard.
Yeah. We all remember the classic Linus Torvalds clip, you know.
Yeah.
My name is Linus Torvalds, and I say Linux. So, yeah.
I need to like pronounce my name like Fabien Cherchil. Mais oui.
That sounds French.
C'est la vie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds very French.
Un baguette.
Un baguette. You make me think of what's the Flight of the Conchords French thing?
Yeah.
That song they have about French, and he's like,
about,
the bibliothèque.
Je rate pas
Le
Dieu.
discothèque.
Un passport.
In passport, yeah. And he's at one point, one of them just jumps up and goes, birth. Like, really good. Birth. Which is really good. I do like birth. That's a great name. That's French for beef, in case you don't know. I do love that.
Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, Shia the beef.
Yeah.
It's his name. I don't know what Shia means in French, but something the beef. He is. Yes. Anyway, all right, and so I'm going to start my recording. Now that we're up to 2 hours 5. Oh, that's not bad. I had like 15 minutes, 20 minutes left on the recorder, so it's getting close.
Well, I'll send you the file.
Cool. All right.
Let's quit this. Let's go.
All right, let's go offline, if you like. So thanks to everyone for listening and or watching, and I'm killing the Icecast now. So we'll